Hey, good afternoon. I am here with Matthew Tirschwell of Tirschwell Lighting Design. Matt, can you say hello?
Hi there.
Good to
Oh,
see you.
we just got picked up an assignment. I'll
Oh,
call you back.
let's do this another time. Text me later.
Yep.
All right. Good morning, everybody. This is your buddy Asher Schoenberg from Stan Deutsch. I am in my man cave right now, and I am joined by someone I've had the pleasure of knowing for, about 16 plus years now. This is Matthew Tirschwell of Tirschwell Lighting. Matt has been in practice for over 20 years, since 1999. Matt is a lighting designer with a theatrical background. He's also the owner of his own design practice. He's a father, he's a husband, he's a friend, he's a family member. And what most of you probably don't realize about him is that Matthew is also an emergency medical technician with the Ridgewood Volunteer Ambulance Corps in Queens. And he's also a firefighter out on Fire Island. Matt, did I cover everything?
Yeah, and then because I don't have enough to do, I started another foundation which we can talk about later on.
Excellent. I look forward to hearing about that. Absolutely do. So Matthew, there you are in your Ridgewood volunteer hoodie. What's going on with you? You not in the office?
I'm in the office of the Ridgewood Volunteer Ambulance Corps. I just finished up 96 hours of tours. So that was 8 days of 12-hour shifts, starting last Friday and continuing through yesterday. And it's been quite the ride. I must say I was born and raised in Manhattan, and it's been really quite interesting and exciting to drive through areas of Queens and Brooklyn that I certainly have never been in before, and usually traveling at an extremely high rate of speed, but obviously being cautious, but also trying to get to my jobs. So it's really been an interesting week.
Now, are these calls that you've been going out on while you're on duty during your tours, are these like normal routine, I fell down, my stomach hurt, I'm having chest pains, or is this I have COVID, come save me? Because
the answer is yes. We have responded to cardiac arrest calls that may or may not have been COVID related. Sometimes we don't know. We have responded to stroke patients, again, may or may not have been COVID related. And then we've responded to generally sick patients, which could be sick, fever, cough, is usually how it comes over, and people who are certainly COVID positive and absolutely must be transported to the hospital. So we've seen really just about everything. The one thing we really haven't seen a lot of is trauma. We haven't seen a lot of motor vehicle accidents or pedestrian struck, simply because there are no pedestrians out on the streets.
little things, right?
It's
It's nice to say you can go a couple of weeks without reacting to a car accident. I
yes.
guess it's interesting. And so, what drew you to this? How long have you been doing this superhero routine?
I wouldn't call it a superhero routine, but I would say it's been a while. I started in 1988, which hurts me to say. As a volunteer,
were you a teenager?
My senior year of high school, I had to do community service. So I volunteered with my local fire department, which I'm still a member of today. And at the time, probably didn't do anywhere near the 100 hours that was required, but they seem to have gotten me, throughout the years, doing a little bit more. And then in college, I volunteered for the Ithaca Fire Department, which was both career and volunteer, and then got my certified first responder license in 1990, and then my EMT license in 1992. So, taking on 22 credits my senior year probably wasn't the best move at the time, but that, and there you go. So it's been a while. I have a particularly low EMT number, which most people are rather impressed by. It's only because of age.
Wow. So you've been doing this before lighting was ever part of your life.
Well, no, I mean, I had studied in high school as a lighting designer, and then went into college doing lighting design and technical theater, and then transitioned over to architectural lighting. So both passions have I learned very, very young and continue to this day.
Well, that's great. I mean, you are a Lumen Award recipient. You've received multiple kudos and recognized works, Architectural Digest, just to name, one of the smaller publications that are out there. You've educated people, you mentor your team. I'm wondering, how has this whole debacle affected your ability as a designer, one, and also as the owner who is overseeing several other people, family members at this point?
It's been okay. I'll say that. I think that a lot of business owners would sort of echo this feeling that, taking care of your people is extremely important. And my team, who I love dearly and are really just exceptional, I really want to make sure that I can do everything I can for them. I will say that, and proactively what I did do was I brought everybody down by 20% salary and 20% of hours, just because, a month ago, we really didn't know where we were going to be, what this was going to look like, how long this is going to look like. And to this day, we still don't really know. But it was, at the same time, I have to save the ship. And one thing I would say I learned in 2008, 9, and 10 was that I didn't react fast enough as a business owner. At the same time, everyone's still getting, paid every 2 weeks. Everyone still has their health benefits, which I think is particularly important at this time. So it's, these are decisions that every business owner has to go through. What I truly feel terrible about are the business owners who basically had to say, we have no money, we have no reserves, we have nothing, I'm shutting down, and you're all done. And you have nothing. That, as a business owner, would absolutely kill me.
Yeah, understood. So people are brought down to this, reduced time during the week. And you've always been good like that. Like Summer Fridays are a year-round event for your office.
So now it's all day Fridays.
Well said. Well said.
But fortunately, we actually have enough work right now that seems to be keeping everybody busy. And in fact, in the past 2 or 3 weeks, we picked up some new projects. So we actually have some fresh work to do, which is great. And we do have enough long-standing projects. So we're all right. The stop in construction is certainly affecting the projects themselves, and certainly affecting our abilities to respond, obviously, in certain capacities. But we seem to have enough future design work to keep us moving. The challenge will be what happens in the next, how long this goes and what this looks like.
No, understood. And we're right there with you. We feel you.
I'm sure you are.
Yeah, no, we see the design process still moving, but obviously with construction at a halt in New York City and other, jurisdictions elsewhere, it certainly played an impact. But it's nice to see that we're still able to work and be productive and be there for our clients as much as possible. So going back to your volunteer efforts here. Mm-hmm. So you have this reduced time. You just put in a multiple day tour. You've been nonstop. What can those of us that are going to watch this video, the 8 of us that are out here right now watching this video, what can we do to help? Listen, if I set the expectation low, it'll be good.
So I would say that the activity level has, as you've seen and watched on the news, and I've witnessed in the hospitals, the activity level certainly has dropped, which is great. We had days where we were still incredibly busy, and they were sending us. Now we're in Ridgewood, which is sort of the middle of Queens, and they were sending us out to Jamaica. So you can imagine how long that took. So there's still certainly pockets that we're seeing of hot areas, hot zones. But I would say right now, like, we have enough PPE to keep us going. We have plenty, actually, of personal protective equipment. I've been wearing Tyvek suits that will bleach down pretty much after every COVID call, and throwing out enough N95 masks and all that stuff, and these shields and all that. So equipment-wise, we're doing fine. I would say that long term, and this will sort of lead into a little bit of what my foundation is doing. Long term, I think that what the lighting community could really do is start to take a look at some of these organizations and say, you know, I'm blessed. I have a roof over my head. I have food in my cupboard. And I have a skill set that I could probably start to apply to other areas. And I would say certainly some areas might be these volunteer ambulance companies that don't necessarily have the resources or skill sets that someone, say, in sales and marketing or finance might be able to offer them. That really could be a real help. A lot of agencies were stretched. We had to go out just like everybody else and try to buy equipment. And masks that we were paying $1 or $1.50 for suddenly went up to $5 if you could buy them at all. So a lot of our resources were drained simply because of this situation.
Oh, unreal, unreal. So you need bodies, right? You need support. You need people with certain skills. For those people that are out there that might be overwhelmed with their time, they want to help. Is there any other way they can help other than loaning their talents?
Well, look, you know, like any not-for-profit always needs wherewithal, you know, always needs funds. I mean, that's clear. But even, you know, if you know how to build a website, you know, even that can be of some. You'd be amazed at what some of your secondary skills could come in. And people need logos for their, or you know, they've been thinking about doing logo changes for their organization, even with graphic design skills could play a part. You'd be amazed at how many people are needed to run an organization. It just even this. Where membership is always a challenge. We need drivers, you know, even that. So if you happen to not necessarily know how to drive an emergency vehicle, you know, you could become a driver for an ambulance company. You know, obviously you'll be trained. So it's amazing how many ways people can help, and it's not always financial. Financial is great, but you know, putting your incredibly talented resources to work. For small organizations can really prove to be an amazing impact.
Part of me is wondering where you think I might be able to fit into this whole scenario and how I can personally help, other than, you know, making donations to your website,
right?
Or your organization rather, via your website.
You know, it takes. I mean, they say it takes a village, but if you think about, you have logistics, you have operations, you have administrative, you have an accounting, you have so many different areas, you know, sales, customer service, all these things, management, you know, is really one of the big challenges for a lot of organizations, which they don't necessarily have. I don't want to say skill set, but it's some do and some don't. Some are certainly better organized than others. But that is clearly where someone with a very clear linear mind, like you say, can really prove to be a benefit, and starting to look at like the real big picture items.
And what's the name of the website?
So there are two. So the organization that I founded is called EMS and that is focusing on the leadership and management of volunteer organizations and trying to produce essentially best practices. And we're working with some pretty big companies who are working pro bono. One of whom is Anderson Tax, which is an international finance firm. The other one, Boston Consulting Group, which is gargantuan and extremely well respected. And they do a lot of work in the healthcare field, and they're really helping us out. And what we're trying to do is build a platform by which volunteer agencies can really strengthen their leadership and management, and even just organizational charge, which sounds so simple, but in such an organization where you have a changing of the guard or changing of members, often sometimes they have annual elections. Oftentimes they do. So you have a person who's never been in a leadership or management role ever in their lives suddenly in charge of an organization or significant parts of that. So these are very big changes that need to be resolved from a leadership and management perspective, and that's what we're really concentrating on. And then the Ridgewood Volunteer Ambulance Corps, which is ridgewoodvac.com, which is the organization that I'm involved in. And again, money is always a struggle. That's what it is. But we're more than welcome to receive help. And I would like to see really in the global picture. I would really love to see the lighting community start to do other things, which I certainly want to try to spearhead. I would love to have everyone in the lighting community, for example, CPR and first aid trained. It's a simple thing. It would take 8 hours of something, an afternoon or a weekend day, and just get everybody trained, because that little piece can really stretch quite a ways, throughout New York.
Well said. Well said. I think we could all use a refresher on some of those basic core elements, CPR, Heimlich. I mean, we should all be aware of that, how to react in the event of an emergency, one that's manageable by us as regular human beings. Certainly, you've had great training. I hope you stay safe out there. You, all the first responders, it's been really good to get to know you a little bit better and deeper, that personal side of you. I just have to wonder, with the work stuff, with the volunteer stuff, wife and kids, everything's good? What's it like having two daughters at home right now,
Well,
all the time?
So here's the slight disadvantage to this whole thing, is that my wife and kids are up in Westchester. And so I left them last Thursday to start my shift on Friday, and I haven't seen them since. And now I'm self-quarantining in New York City for another 2 weeks. So I won't actually see them for 3 weeks, which is not great. I will say it's certainly it's a sacrifice that I'm not. I understand why I have to do it. I prefer obviously not to do it, but at the end of the day, New York City was and is sick, and it's a city that I love, and it was a family decision that we all understood that this was just part, of a bigger picture that we all needed to do what we could do.
Excellent. Well, God bless, man. Seriously, great talking to you.
Thank you, Oscar. I really appreciate you having me on this little webcast.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Oscar, and thank you very much for spearheading this. I do very much appreciate it.